I am an attorney and I do a lot of speaking internationally, but this is like the hardest thing to speak on. And I lost my two sons, Caleb and Kyler. Caleb was 20, Kyler 18, on July 29th of 2020. And they died along with a 17-year-old girl, Sophia Harris, at the Baymont Inn in Auburn Hills. And it made the news because I guess it was, sensational that 3 young people died. I heard from another mother the very next day because her son, also from Rochester Hills, died the same day. But it didn't make the news because there weren't 3 young people. And since being involved in so many Facebook groups of people who lost their children, I'm realizing that it is a lot more common than I ever realized. My boy's birth mother, Nicole, was a drug addict. She was addicted to heroin, and her mother had been a drug addict, and her father was an alcoholic, and his father was an alcoholic, and both of them died in their 30s, heart failure due to alcoholism. So it was 4 generations of addicts. Her youngest brother, who was 3 years older than Caleb, Jude, who was at my boy's funeral, he died a month later, same thing. And Nicole, their birth mother, died in January. An awful lot of tragedy, and I've told people, I really don't want to remember my sons for how they died. I want to remember them for how they lived. And so speaking here today to talk about how they died is so very painful. My boys wanted to live. They wanted to be free from this. And the day after they died, my ex-husband was going through their things, and he found handwritten items from both of them that they wrote out when they were in jail just 2 months earlier. And I was so happy when they were in jail. I was so relieved that they were going to be safe. I begged Michigan Liberation not to bail them out. They had won a lawsuit against Oakland County Jail and others, and so they were just bailing people out all over the place. And I get it that we want, rehab and not just jail, but I knew my boys were safe, and I didn't know what other resources were out there. And so the judge reduced the bond from $8,500 each to $1,500 each, and then I said, look, my son needs rehab, and Caleb went into a rehab facility where it wasn't medical rehab. I didn't know the difference. And my son told me what it was like there, and really they did nothing. It was a halfway house. It wasn't real treatment facility. I didn't know about, medications that can be given to help them overcome addiction. My ex-husband had it up Celebrate Recovery, and I would beg him to help get them into rehab, but he didn't even know where to take them. And he was in the recovery community and didn't know where he could take them under an emergency. And that's how they ended up at the hotel that night. But while they were in jail, both of them immediately repented, or Caleb immediately repented and apologized. Kyler, within a couple of weeks after he had all the drugs and the nicotine from vaping out of his system. I always told my boys that vaping was a gateway drug. It started in middle school. Rochester Hills, it was all over the schools, and it was a gateway drug in every sense. My son Kyler, when he would go to wrestle, he couldn't breathe. And so he would, during wrestling season, get off of it, and he would tell me that he would go through withdrawals for 3 days. really bad, where he would be throwing up, and he would be sweating, and he would have a horrible headache. And then he'd say he was never going to do it again. And not only did they have a chemical addiction, but they also, it was a gateway drug also because they learned how to hide it. They learned how to steal to support it. They learned how to deal it within school to help support their addiction. And then we know that within those cartridges, they begin to add other drugs. And so in every respect, vaping is a gateway drug. Not just marijuana, not just alcohol, but vaping. And that's where it started with my boys. By ninth grade, my son Caleb told me that he was getting pills. And I understand that that's like the number one drug of choice, I've been told, in many communities. And the kids were getting it from parents' medicine cabinets. Xanax, Percocet, oxycodone, different painkillers, and they weren't locking up their medicine cabinets, and their kids would get it, take it to school, and sell it. And that's how my boys got addicted to the pills. The night they died, or the morning they died, the night before they had been doing all kinds of drugs. They were celebrating because Kyler had just graduated online. He finished up school, graduated from high school, and he could no longer stay where he was staying. My son Caleb, he had posted pictures of pills on Snapchat, and my boy's cousin alerted our daughters, and they were scared. We were all freaking out because we knew how they could be when they were on these drugs. And so my ex-husband said he would take them to a hotel for the night till he could figure out where to take them the next day. In their system, there was all kinds of drugs, but they found fake Xanax. I didn't know that the Xanax they were taking was fake. I didn't know that, there's these presses from China that can perfectly replicate any pill, and that it's actually atizolam, which is another benzo. And the fake Percocets were 100% fentanyl. There was no Percocet in it whatsoever. It was 100% fentanyl. They were murder pills. Whoever created those pills intended to kill. Reading their autopsy report was horrific. I just wanted to see the toxicology. I was really upset that in Oakland County, the cause of death was listed as drug abuse. When in other counties, I understand, I don't know what it is in Livingston, but normally it's fentanyl poisoning. They'll say what the actual cause of death is, and I called the medical examiner, chief medical examiner in Oakland County. I was so upset, and he's like, "Oh, you want me to sugarcoat it for you?" I was horrified. They didn't even die from abusing what they thought they were taking. They died from fentanyl poisoning. They didn't die from an overdose of the drug they thought they were taking. They were poisoned. The drug dealer was revived. He got a plea deal, and sentencing is September 23rd. So we'll be going through that. But I want to read to you what the boys, one more thing. In jail, they both repented, as I said. Kyler said that he's in there with kids who had horrible childhoods. They are full of abuse and drugs and parents in jail and prison. And he said, "I had the best childhood. You raised us right. I have so many good memories. We did all kinds of cool things and went to fun places." And he said, "I'm so lucky you adopted me." And Caleb said, "Mom, you're my superhero. You've always been there for me. You always cared. I was always going in the room and finding things, and I always wanted them to have consequences. And he knew that I cared. He asked me to just please don't ever abandon me. I told him I wouldn't. It's hard because I feel like I did." So this is what Kyler had written when he was in jail his 17-point goals. He wrote, goals for when I'm out. Number 1, stay away from drugs and alcohol. It's not worth it. Number 2, surround myself with good influenced people. Number 3, stay away from nicotine. 4, treat people with more respect. Don't burn bridges. 5, find another method to cope that works for me. 6, get closer with Jaden, his girlfriend. 7, start doing something physical to get in shape. 8, start working a lot to stay focused. 9, finish school. He did. 10, have a better relationship with my parents. 11, do anything and everything to better myself and my health. 12, listen when told to do something. 13, don't F up Probo or I'll have a felony on my record. 14, report to any and every drug test. 15, don't follow in my birth mom's footsteps. 16, be there for my brother, my only blood brother. 17, I can do anything that I put my mind and effort into. Learn from this jail experience and never come back. This is not the lifestyle I want. This is what Caleb had written. He told me he wanted to start speaking in schools and churches to tell people why not to do drugs. To whom it may concern, my name is Caleb Kiessling. I'm 20 years old. I have dabbled in more drugs than I have fingers, ranging from marijuana all the way up to cocaine. I've never touched or even considered touching crack, meth, or heroin, as I have grown up watching my birth mother constantly put her life in jeopardy, as well as the lives of those around her, playing the game of Russian roulette that is heroin. I watched all of her friends pass away from heroin overdoses, and I've also grown up in an era in which parents, schools, churches, and coaches teach endlessly how destructive those 3 substances are on the mind, body, as well as the soul. For those reasons, I've never touched them, have any desire to touch them, or ever see myself ever touching them in the future. My drug use stems more from the fact that I deal with constant mental and emotional pain as well as nonstop suicidal urges rather than from addiction in the classic sense of the word. I suffer from chronic anxiety and depression, which comes about for seemingly little to no apparent reason and can be almost crippling some days, leaving me emotionally unable to drag myself out of bed. These issues began tormenting me around 13 years of age, and I had 2 suicide attempts under my belt soon after out of lack of knowledge why I felt that way and how to manage it. I've since learned to control and suppress any suicidal urges, though it is a daily struggle to this day. Long story short, I self-medicate. This caused a lot of strife in my relationship with my parents in my teen years, but they have since realized that my issues are real and quite severe and are now very supportive of me despite my drug use and legal issues. Outside of my medical and legal issues, I was a good kid and have grown into a solid young buck in almost every sense of the saying. I was an athlete. I played soccer from a young age all the way up until my junior year of high school when I suffered a concussion during tryouts and could not compete for a spot on the team. I got all A's in school, was student council vice president, and ended up graduating early. And I've held a full-time job since I was 16 years old. I am extremely intelligent and wise beyond my years. Even from a young age, older men have recognized that and gave me the respect they give their peers. I have my parents to thank for that, as they stressed I keep my nose in a book, teaching me that knowledge is true power and is the one thing nobody can ever take from you. Try me on just about any subject and I would at least have a limited knowledge on it. Before I caught these last 3 cases, I had already realized that my life needed a change, and I had been in the process of signing on with the Navy. My new cases caused my file to get denied by the Navy legal department, but I scored in the 90th percentile on the PCAT test. So I plan on resubmitting my file through the other branches when all this gets cleared up. I have too many routes available to me not to succeed. So even if the military isn't my path, I'm gonna have a good future. I can feel that in my bones. I'm built to succeed, and my issues have only made me stronger. My shortcomings don't even begin to define who I am, and don't even begin to speak to what I've been through and overcome. I can only claim just a little credit for it because it is by the Lord's grace and protection that I am alive and here to tell my story. He has watched over my whole life, even when I refused to accept his presence and existence. But on a less serious note, if I had to describe myself and the person I am, I would tell you that I'm a man beyond my years. I'm very balanced in knowledge, whether it be book, street, or life wisdom. I'm a hard worker and have no issues making money. I'm the most loyal of the loyal. I'm there for my family and friends. I have never turned my back. I'm very trustworthy. My people can come to me with anything, no matter what it is. I'm the young lion of my pride, the young wolf of my pack, in a sense. I'm quiet and serious, but can get goofy in my element. I live for respect and demand that it be given to me. I'm very respectful of other people and treat everyone with dignity. I'm not violent by nature, but will go to war if you push me and mine. I am by no means impressionable and will not just believe anything I'm told. I have a way of reading a person and can smell BS a mile away. I keep my circle small. All the friends I consider family and know I can trust them even with the heaviest of things. I am by no means perfect. I have my issues, which I will never deny, but I also do not regret my issues or my shortcomings, as I have learned and become stronger for them. The Lord has blessed me with the qualities of a great man, and despite the obstacles I have faced, I am well on my way to becoming just that. I just typed that out for the first time yesterday and finished it today to prepare for this. He thought he was saved taking pills. There's nothing on the street that is safe today. In the support groups that I'm in on Facebook, fentanyl is in everything. It's in everything. It's in heroin, it's in meth, it's in marijuana, it's in all the pills. There's nothing that's safe. And I couldn't believe reading this, that he thought as long as he stayed away from meth, crack, and heroin that he was safe. And I wonder how many other young people think the same thing. And he thought he was so wise and that he could smell BS. And, that was his downfall because he trusted the wrong people. And I hope that by me sharing this today, that maybe it can help save some lives and prevent others from even heading down this path at all. Thank you.